Good evening, guys. How's it going? How's everybody doing? Great to be back on a Sunday evening. My favorite time to talk about cricket and my favorite show of the lot, actually. I really enjoy the podcast show because we can just sit back. I could have been a very depressed Hardy sitting over here this weekend. Luckily, my team won tonight and 4-2 at least. So, and Aaron rolls his eyes immediately. I just go from a game to game basis now, Aaron, when it comes to football. Like, I think I'm going to start doing this with cricket too. Like, just a game to game basis. Living that euphoria of that moment, of those couple of days of the series and the matches when it happens. And then afterwards, just forget about it. Put it behind you and move on until the next time. No more speculating about whether we're going to win a World Cup or whether we're going to win a Test Championship or whether we're going to win the league in football anymore. I think I'm just going to take it day by day, game by game. How are you doing? How's your weekend been? I'm going to catch up with Aditya on the other side of your conversation.
Well, to be honest, Khalid, here in England, it's been absolutely horrible. It's been wet, it's been windy, we've been hit by 3 back-to-back-to-back storms. So, yeah, not too good, to be honest, here in terms of the weather. But obviously the cricket, there's loads going, which is fantastic. I just think back to 2020, wasn't it horrible when we had absolutely no live cricket on, and it's just back. And you know what? I take that exact philosophy as well, Khalid, with all sport now, and actually a lot of things in life, just take it day by day and just enjoy the moment, just enjoy what we're seeing. And obviously for South African, maybe you didn't quite enjoy the first test of the series, understandably so, in innings and 276 run defeat at the hands of the world champions. But at the same time, you live and you learn. This South Africa team has clearly got a lot of promise. We saw that in the India series. Now is not the time to be reactionary. It's only a 2-match test series. You've still got plenty of test matches to come in 2022. I do back this team to sort themselves out and come back a lot stronger.
It's interesting what you're saying there because I'm looking at it and I'm like, being a United fan and being a Proteas fan doesn't necessarily gel well together. So yeah, let's see how things go moving forward. No, be optimistic, guys. Be optimistic. Aditya, how are you doing? I see a different way you're broadcasting today. I'm liking it. And I hope you guys noticed that I said broadcasting because I tried to mix it up with podcasting and broadcast.
Very good.
Yeah, good day, guys. Lovely to see you all as always. The Sunday podcast is a special time for us to be chatting about cricket in a more relaxed manner. I'm currently in a hill station called Lonavala, which is about 2 hours out of Bombay, and I'm just on a 1-day vacation with my family, and I just thought that there's nothing quite as romantic as chatting cricket on a bit of a family vacation. So here I am.
I thought you were going to say it was an extended Valentine's week or weekend or something. Like I thought maybe that's why you were away there in a nice setting, romantic setting.
Nah, not quite, mate. Cricket is my wife and my life.
We've had quite a few sayings on today's show already that we can use as headlines for the show tomorrow on socials.
What a line. What a way to start the podcast. To be fair, actually, gents, talking of the cricket, because I've already seen it in the comments, Ryan Rickleton, I'd love to know your 2 thoughts on him not being selected in that first test. I know that Dan Orsmond, Dan Cricket, as we know him on Twitter, obviously he wasn't happy. I know that a large section of South Africa fans were, to be honest, quite agitated by the fact that he wasn't in that starting 11. For the second test, does he come in?
Yeah. You asked me the $1 million question over there, or $1 million question.
Already?
Yeah, it's before the test series, before the first test, I said I wanted Rickleton in the side. It made sense based on what has been communicated with us through Victor Impensang, Graham Smith, Mark Boucher. So when they selected Ryan Rickleton in the squad, and we were looking at what was going to happen moving forward with other selections, I thought that they're going to keep consistency by picking players that are in form, that have recently performed. Because when Peter Malan got selected initially, right in the beginning, it was when Aiden was injured. Peter Malan came in for the England series. He was most in form at the time, and he had experience behind him. I thought, okay, this is the direction they're going to be going with for the future. That is despite what Victor Mpesang told me in his first ever press conference or first ever interview with myself on this channel. It's where he spoke a lot about youngsters getting opportunities and future and looking towards the future. So it kind of did a 360 when Boucher went for Peter Malan in that particular series. But then I thought, okay, this is going to be the standard. He's going to continuously pick players based on current form then. But then we saw some wobbling decisions, and Aditya's been to enough press conferences to admit that there's been confusion in the message that has been sent to us via whoever's sitting in the press conference at the time, because literally that is how we get our information. In a press conference from X, Y, or Z, we don't know who that person is going to be to relay the message. It's not always the same person that does. Sometimes we get contradicting messages from the players and from the coach themselves and from the convener when it happens. So we needed to look at it more in depth. And I think there needs to be a change in the communication paths and the way they communicate. The communication happens from Victor Mpesang, CSA, to the fans, because we are completely confused in certain decisions that are made. Because by the logic of the past and the pattern of the past, Rickleton starts that game 10 out of 10 times, based on what was communicated with us. But then, when we look at the reasons given for Zubair Hamza getting into the team, it might not be Zubair Hamza who is the person that Rickleton should replace. But when you look at it on face value, then it does seem that way, because that is the direct correlation between the two. Who didn't get picked and who got picked? Who got brought into the team late, who didn't? Now, mind you, Zubair Hamza was always a reserve. The reserves weren't initially communicated with us in the press release, which is funny to me, because that's the number one way you can be transparent. If that was communicated with the public, that Zubair Hamza was a traveling or non-traveling reserve, then I don't think people would feel as confused as they are now, because it almost seems like this selection came out of nowhere, where in fact he was clearly in the selectors' plans in the back of their mind. So when I saw Zubair Hamza being put into the squad, it seemed to me like they were going to select him, because I thought like for like replacement at the number 3 spot. We already know that the domestic level is not as good as the international level. We know this in all formats around the world. So when a player in his first season batting regularly at number 4 in a domestic season performs the way he does, you know the step up is going to be difficult from domestic to international. So you want to give a debut to a guy that's going to bat at 3, or are you going to give a guy a debut that bat at 6? So this occasion was probably the best occasion for them to play Ryan Rickleton. It was obviously probably the best chance. Number 6 slot was open. They wanted to play an extra batter. Perfect opportunity to play an extra batter in Ryan Rickleton. But we heard that it's got something to do with transformation. And it's got something to do with the quota system that they picked Zubair Hamza, because they haven't been meeting the levels that are required of them when it comes to the transformation system. So they haven't been meeting the numbers required. But then why not communicate with us again? Communication problem. Why not tell us as the fan base, guys, look here, we're having trouble meeting the requirements. These are the requirements. This is how it works. We're going to have to play certain amount of players in games X, Y, and Z. Fan base understands. Fan base knows. No problems there. Whether the quota system needs to stay, whether the transformation system needs to stay, that's a whole entire argument on its own. But if us as the fan base know before a series, going into a series before a match, because there are plenty of media opportunities for them to communicate this with us. They could call a meeting with a Victor Ipetsang. He can do a little Zoom chat and chat about it and even describe his reasoning. He could just sit in front of a camera and explain his reasoning and send the video through to us as media, and we can put it on our channel so that we understand the reasons of why these things are happening. So I don't know. To answer your question, Aaron, and I went on a 5-minute rant almost just to answer that one question, but it was a difficult one to answer. I would have played Ryan Rickleton. I will still play. You see, now it's difficult because they've already given Zubair Hamza a chance, and he was one of the top scorers in the games out of everybody else. Do you drop Zubair now, or if you're going on the form talk, then you also have to kind of go on test form. Then the 24 in test cricket is equal to a 15 in domestic cricket. If we're thinking like this, if this is the thinking path we're going on, so then you should be dropping either what's his name now? Aiden, or he should be dropping Rasif van der Dussen, because it's unfair to drop Sarel now because he's only got one chance. But would it be fair to drop Zubair Hamza now? Because in their minds, Zubair Hamza was always in their plans. So it would be contradicting, and it would be almost hypocritical in a way if they drop Zubair Hamza now in the next test, because they're going against what they initially said they're going to do anyway. So it is very confusing currently. Aditya and Werner, you can weigh in on this too. But for me personally, Ryan Rickleton should have always started.
Go on, Werner. Go on. I see you. You want to mention Tristan Stubbs as well. I can see it in your face, so go on.
Not yet. Let's leave that for at the end of the show.
All right.
I would have definitely played Ryan Rickleton, and I said so before the game. And when I saw the team sheet and saw that Hamza came in at 6, yeah, I was a bit disappointed, just because, and I talked about this in the last show as well, that Ryan Rickleton was already in the squad for the last couple of series. He's been the inform guy, so it didn't really make sense to me. And I think we can still play him in the next game and drop Markram. That's my opinion. I don't think Markram's in the right headspace right now. He's all over the place, and I know the quality that he has. We all know the talent potential, all of that. But right now, I wouldn't play him. I'd tell him go back to the domestic cricket, score buckets of runs, get some confidence back, go to the high performance center, figure out your technique, figure out the stepping across too far, playing outside the off stump, whatever it takes. But right now, it's not good enough, and he'll probably be the first person to say that as well. That's the type of guy he is. He'll say, okay, he knows it's not good enough now, so he'll be probably, if they say to him, look, Markram, it's not good enough right now, we're going to send you back, we're going to give Ryan a chance who's been in form, and he'll say, okay, that's fair. And that's the way I would go, definitely.
Because in this situation, 2 wrongs don't make a right. They're not going to be able to rectify what they did with Ryan in the first test. And by dropping Zubair Hamza, I feel it's going to be unfair almost. Because then you're just going to be using do you understand what I mean? So, Aditya, you can add to that as well. No sound coming up. Okay, so we're probably just going to lose Aditya for a little while there, while he tries to get the sound working. Nope. I think just rejoin. I'm going to kick you. Yeah. So yeah, we'll. I like that. That's the name of the thing. It's called Kick. Kick.
Manchester United fan talking about kicking.
Hey, we won today. We won today. 4-2, bro. We won today.
I love that, Werner. Love that from you. But
look at Werner. Doesn't even watch football, and he already knows exactly which team to gate.
But in fact, going back onto that that topic of conversation with regards to Khalid, you mentioned there playing both Hamza and Rickleton. How would you balance the batting order between those two? Would you keep Hamza in his position that he batted in the first test? would you change that? How do you go about setting up the batting dynamic of the side?
So for me, Hamza is supposed to be the replacement for Keegan Peterson in my head. If I'm looking at the squad, I see Zubair Hamza as a backup for Keegan if Keegan gets injured, because that's how it was looking to go back then already when they picked Zubair Hamza the first time. It was supposed to be Keegan, they picked Zubair. Zubair got an opportunity, didn't do well, dropped Zubair. So automatically I thought that was unfair. And I could understand if they brought KP as their number 3 and then Zubair is their backup. So I assumed that would be the case going forward. Because not Ryan Rickleton, sorry, Reina van Torde, I think he still has some time to develop and learn a lot on his game. You can see in the T20s how he has been struggling. He has some stuff that he needs to work out, and that's okay. Young players are allowed to have some chances just to figure out their game. You can't be figuring out your game at this level. It's not going to work out for you. There are certain things that you can learn and pick up, etc., as you go along. But from that point of view, you can't learn on the test arena from necessarily. So you need to understand at least your personal game. You need to understand when I'm talking about that. I know I've said in the past that I would rather want to see a youngster in a situation. If you have to pick a new player into a team, and there's one spot available, I would rather go for a youngster that is understanding his own game than a more experienced guy, because there are certain youngsters that you can see they already understand their game plan. Like if you want to talk about a player that we can talk about right now, then that's Tristan Stubbs, as an example in T20 cricket, when he understands what he's supposed to do and he does what he does. So for me, Zubair Hamza is the backup for KP, and we've got Ryan Rickleton as the backup for Kyle, and that's okay. It's okay to have that. But right now, in this situation, you have to drop what hasn't been performing well for a while. So Rassi, I haven't seen enough of in the test arena. And in the last 10 matches, Aiden's averaged 9. So you have to drop one or the other. Sarel Irvia is supposed to be the backup to Aiden Markram or Dean Alga if something goes wrong there. We lose him to injury, COVID, whatever the case may be. Sarel opens the batting. He's opened his batting for years. Why moving to 3 right now? Does not make sense. Let him play where he feels comfortable for the Dolphins. So what I would like to see going forward, if that happens, I don't think it's fair to drop Sarel right now, no matter what your opinion is on him. So give him another chance with Dean to open the batting. That means that Aiden should be dropped or Rassi should be dropped, and you play. And if you don't drop Aiden, then Aiden should bat 4. If they're thinking of moving Aiden down the order, which it looked like they were trying to do, but then they bat him at 3, which makes no sense. They should bat him in the position that they think he's going to bat, which is 4, and then move Zubair to 3. Let Zubair bat in his own natural position where he bats. Let Aiden bat 4. Let Bavuma bat 5, or Rassi bat 5, and Bavuma bat in his normal position as per usual. Or Ryan Rickleton plays, of course, as well. Ryan Rickleton plays, I think, where Zubair Hamza batted. I don't know if I answered that question correctly now, but yeah.
Is Aditya back?
I don't know.
Yes,
he is. Yes.
Yes.
Sorry about that. The network is quite dodgy, so I suppose I'll just make a couple of points and then take your leave. But since we were talking about Ryan Rickleton, what I'd said at the beginning of this series was that Keegan Peterson basically carried the lineup in the series against India, and Dean Elgar contributed a little bit along the way, as did Temba Bavuma. But if you look at this current lineup without Keegan Peterson, Temba Bavuma is your only real informed batsman, and therefore it's important to include another batsman who has confidence and who has runs under his belt and has been averaging 118. It's probably the most popular number in South African cricket right now. But the thing is, my guess was that Dean and Aiden would open. Rassi would slot in at 3 because he's already batted at 3 before. Ryan Rickleton would bat at number 4, where he's been comfortable and has scored the truckload of runs that he has. Temba Bavuma would continue batting at 5, where he's done so well against India recently, and Kyle Verreynne at 6. That to me seemed to be the most sort of seamless adjustment for this series. So to then see Sarel come in, obviously he deserves his opportunity, no doubt about that. But to then see Sarel take the opening spot and Aiden come one down, to move a batter who's already lacking confidence one spot down in the order to a position that he's not exactly comfortable with, or hasn't played a whole lot in before. And then obviously Kyle Verreynne at number 7 and Zubair Hamza at 6. It all seemed like there was too much shuffling going on around there, and that was unsettling. So I'm not sure I agree with the way that the batting lineup has been structured for this test. Uh, but in a two-test series, selection is so tricky, right? Because once you pick 11, unless there's an injury or drastic change in conditions between the two pitches, you basically have to continue playing that same 11 to ensure
That's
that
the
there's
problem.
consistency.
That's the problem, right there. Hit on the nail on the head there, Aditya.
And so I guess they'd have to go with the same squad, the same team for the second test match, except Keshav Maharaj would probably come in. And there again, I think with Keshav, uh, it's so important that Dean realizes how to use him well. Because we've talked about the importance of having a captain who can use spinners well, and I think it would be quite disappointing for Keshav to go from a captain who really used spin well in Faf to a captain who's probably a bit more comfortable using fast bowlers to take wickets in Dean Elgar. So let's see how that goes. But I guess that was my view on Ryan Rickleton.
You see what I think over there, Aaron, as well, and Aditya as well, because the worst possible thing that could have happened to this selection or this squad, this 11, right? No, I'm talking because Werner, Aaron asked the question and Aditya answered it. Come on, I'm not leaving you out, boy.
I interpreted it that way as well, to be fair, Werner. But go on.
No. So, because I was gonna, my next question. You see, you guys kill my flow. Like it's almost like a freestyle rap here. I was trying to freestyle here and get the flow going, and then you just killed my flow, man. Yes, just come
Please
on now,
don't
man.
rap. We don't want to hear that.
I'm not gonna talk about rap right now. But look here, now I lost my point. So great fun. So basically, what happened to the 11 that they picked? The worst possible thing could have happened to this 11 that was picked is lose so handsomely, because ultimately, no matter what they do in the next game, if they make a change, it's going to be scrutinized. Because then why did you not make that decision in the first game? Because it's only a 2-match series, like Aditya pointed out. If there was a little bit extra games to play with, then I think it would have been a lot easier to make a change, because you can say, "Oh, put your hands up. We got it wrong. There's still 2 games to play. We're going to try to turn the corner." You have something to speak about. But you went into this knowing it's going to be a 2-match series. You need to get it right the first time if you want to win. Simple as that. If you want to win, you need to get it right the first time. So if they make drastic changes, there's going to be a lot of questions asked. And then once again, are they going to communicate it with us as the fans? So, yeah, when it goes to where have things gone with South Africa, where have things gone wrong with South Africa, I'm not only talking about necessarily right now, because I think this has been an accumulation over time that has resulted in the problems that we have to this day, to this point. But let's keep it with New Zealand for right now, Werner. When it comes to rectifying what they did wrong, you as a fan, how would you feel if they do go and make drastic changes now in the second game?
I guess it depends on what you see as drastic changes, because there's only so much that I can change at this point. Maybe Maharaj in, Rickleton in. That's about that. I don't think I can make a lot more changes than that. So I don't think even that would be too drastic. But as I said,
So when I say drastic, I want to add to that it could be even position changes within the batting lineup. So, for example, Sarel going to 4 or 3 or 6 or whatever the case. I'm just making up things now. But like Aiden Markram maybe
you are
going up
making
top.
up things. That would be too
Yeah.
drastic.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. But if they change things, but something drastic to me would also be if they change Sarel from an opener and they move him back to 3 and make Aiden open again. That would also be drastic to me because then I don't understand what the game plan is for Aiden.
Yeah, but I don't see them doing that. I guess it'll be interesting to see if they what changes they do make. I hope Ngidi will be fit for the second test. I think that would already make a big difference in just in an experience in the bowling lineup. And I also think just having played this first game now, because obviously we went into it without any practice match, I think it will make a big difference already. I expect us to be considerably better in the second test, not just for the game time, but just pride-wise. We're a very proud nation and proud team, so I expect him to come back a lot better. And has been talked in the media and Ashwell Prince and all that.
Can we talk about that?
Jet lag has a lot to do with how you perform and where your body is going into a test match, because you're coming from South Africa, you're going to New Zealand. It's like 11 hours apart. By the time the first test match comes, your body hasn't really totally adjusted. So, as I talked about, your energy levels aren't quite there. You don't have the practice match. You go into it not quite 100%. You don't have a practice match. Your body is not right. You might be a little bit tired mentally as well because you're still adjusting. So you go into it against a world-class team. Let's be honest, New Zealand are a world-class outfit. Fantastic bowlers. The batters have really stepped up in the absence of Kane Williamson. So I think it was a real mismatch in that first test. So I'm not too surprised how it went. I think we still played very badly. Don't get me wrong, we played very poorly, and I don't think it's like a total excuse for how we performed. I don't think we should be bowled out for 111 and 95, even considering all those factors. And we have seen our batting especially struggle a lot. But I think the bowling was the thing that shocked me most, because usually our bowlers are very good, and our bowlers are the ones that get us out of the fire if our batters have messed up, which has happened a lot in the past few years. But in this case, the bowlers were almost as bad as our batters. And I think that is a lot due to the lack of energy just for the adjustment and lack of practice match. I think that has a lot to do with it. And I do think we'll come back a lot stronger in the second match, because it was basics, right? It's nothing we speak about here is rocket science, and they know this. They bowled too short for that pitch. You need to get your length fuller. They were both sides of the wickets. They didn't string a lot of dot balls together. No maidens in that session between lunch and tea. All these things it's not rocket science. We all know this. They don't know this. Boucher knows this. He would have talked about this to them Langeveldt even before the match. He talked about the requirement for bowling fuller lengths. So it's not like they didn't know this going in. They just didn't execute at all. And the same for the batters. Also the basics. Don't play loose outside the off stump. Play it late with the ball moving. Play it under your eye. Don't go pushing out at it, which a lot of the batters did, and that was their undoing. So I think we just did the basics very badly, but I don't think we're suddenly a bad team. We didn't go from beating India 2-1 to suddenly being the worst team going around. So yeah, yes,
we did lose two important cogs to that working in wheel against India.
And
with regards to KP and Lungingidi, both of them not playing. Eh? And Nokia,
in the essence of fairness, for New Zealand, they were without Ross Taylor, Kane Williamson, and they still absolutely annihilated the Proteas. So
no, I'm not making excuses
as well.
Matt Henry turning into the reincarnation of Sir Richard Hadley. I've absolutely
I'm not making excuses here. But with regards to South Africa, things were bad. Full stop. We're not talking about we weren't world champions and then lost a couple of players. So things were bad for South Africa. We added to make ourselves compete against India, beat India. KP was a big part of that resurgence. And then you lose your number one reason for being good. And then one of the other reasons as well, Lungingiri with the bowling attack kept that bowling unit also together, I feel, from a seniority perspective, more than KG in my eyes. I think
Yeah.
that Lungi really led with the ball during that India series. So, and also
And
coming back from a massive injury too,
yeah,
you know.
and the thing is also like our bowlers didn't have the energy and didn't execute. But imagine you're feeling like that and you're not feeling 100%, and then okay, finally you get the ball in the right spot and it just dropped, and that happens 7 times. It's hard to come back from that because you're
Mm,
already not in a good space. You're not in the space you'd normally be, and
mm.
then when you finally get it right, no, sorry, it goes down, and then
But
another
that
100 runs are scored before the next opportunity comes.
but that's what makes Ashwell Prince's comments so important, and it's part of the reason why I went with this title of the show today, because I wanted to talk about this theme. Because Ashwell Prince specifically was talking about the comparisons between when they went to go play in New Zealand and they actually beat them in the opening game, and compared to South Africa only having 10 days of quarantine, where they had much more time to quarantine. I think what was this? He said something about 35 days or something like that in between from the time they arrived to New Zealand and playing their first test. So that's a massive, massive difference.
And they had a practice match
And they had a
as
practice
well.
match in that period as well. So South Africa going into a strict quarantine and then going straight out to the middle and to go play, um, it's like it's crazy that it would have affected them. There's no doubt about it that it would have affected them, their energy levels, etc. But it's not an excuse to be bowled out the way we were bowled out. It's no excuse for that. So I don't want to make excuses. I was trying to look for reasons of why things went wrong. Um, but there were specifics that Ashwell spoke about and the way South Africa went out. Particularly, I want to ask Aditya this as well, because you know you speak about this a lot on the show. And Aaron, you can jump in at any time as well. Um, Werner, you too, in your tea that's so blue. Um, so Aditya, that's my bit of rap there for Aaron. Huh? 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 So I can rhyme a bit. I can rhyme a
Fire
bit.
bars.
No, no, no. Crap. So Aditya, he spoke about, because commentators, some pundits, etc., spoke about the batters, lack of footwork, fishing at deliveries, pushing at deliveries, and there could be a reason behind that. And I wanted to hear Ashwell's point of view, because being a batter, being in those situations, he's been in those situations before when his team's in trouble, in difficult conditions. He said that the natural thing for a batter to do is, because it's bad conditions, because it's difficult to play in, they just want to feel bat on ball, so they go out fishing for it. And it's a reprogram of the mindset to say, no, we should rather leave this, or we should rather, and especially when you're off form, you're going to search for that bat on ball a lot more than when you are in form. So those are the two things that he brought up to our attention. So went a little bit more further on with the explanation after that, but let's just hop on that topic first, Aditya.
Yeah, look, that's obviously a valid point, and Ashwell Prince knows what he's talking about, obviously. Um, in in saying that, Test cricket is difficult. Test cricket batting is difficult, and I think what really got to me in that 95 all-out performance was that between batters 2 and 7, each of them faced a minimum of 30 balls. Which told me that they were sticking it out, they were surviving. All of them were at the crease for at least 30 minutes. So they had opportunities, they gave themselves opportunities to get their eyes in, and then somehow they lost it. Whether it's due to poor shot selection or just unplayable deliveries. And I think that's the bit that really hurt me, because I felt like there were these opportunities presented, and Dean Elgar talked about the fact that you have to be disciplined, but you still have to look to score and be positive. And that's where I feel like South Africa have been struggling for a period of time in trying to discover that balance between defense and attack. I think they're still learning how to get that right. Um, so I mean I agree with Ashwell. When a team is when a batter is underconfident, they will try to get that. But it's a mental game that you're fighting, right? Ultimately, if you are that desperate, and ultimately your connection with bat and ball ends up in the slips, then you're not doing yourself too many favors. But if you really bat out time, then you never know. But again, it's one of those things where I felt like South Africa were not necessarily dispatching the loose balls either. And that comes from a lack of confidence too. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but I think certainly one thing that I'd like to talk about is the impact of jet lag on New Zealand players, because on the South African players, because I understand that it's difficult. It's difficult to cope with to play at that intensity with jet lag, but at the same time, I also feel like in 2022 is like, are there no remedies really to deal with that a little bit faster? Like I lived in America for 7 years, and I had to deal with jet lag back and forth consistently. And like one of the tricks that I learned was, eat a lot, before your flight. Don't eat on the flight, and eat when you land, and you'll be fine. And that used to work a lot of the time. Obviously, I didn't have to play international sport, but I don't know. I feel like it's it's a bit difficult it's a bit difficult that jet lag has that impact on you for 10 days, or 12 days. um but yeah, I feel like it's an important conversation to have. Neil Manthorpe wrote an entire article on it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not only the fact that the jet lag. I think that if it was just jet lag that they had to deal with, I think it would have been a little bit different. I don't think they would have even brought it up. I think it's the jet lag powered with the fact that they had to sit in their hotel rooms the entire day and have a strict quarantine, unlike other places where you can still leave, wear your mask. You need to be obviously very cautious in the way you do certain things. But this was a strict protocol quarantine for almost the entire period of their time that they were in New Zealand since they landed, and not much time to train as a unit and train together. There were obviously individual groups that could train. There was a lack of training happening as a team, and so for preparation for a test like that, most test series you are in the country beforehand, and you're there for a while before you actually play your first game. Sometimes there are even um, warm-up matches taking place before actual test is played. So I think it's coupled with both, because sitting in your room after you having jet lag and then trying to get yourself refocused properly, um, without being actually outside and about as well, that makes it difficult for you to be able to adjust your body or your mind. Sitting in a hotel room, basically trying to adjust your mind in the feel of where you are. So I think it was the combination of both that maybe they were talking about.
I would agree with that, Khalid. And again, some people might say this is an overused term in modern cricket, but bubble fatigue is a very, very real thing. I get told it all the time by cricketers at both an international, domestic, franchise level. This is very, very prevalent in cricket right now, because we're seeing it more and more often. How many players are needing to take breaks from the game as a result of these strict biosecure bubbles? Now, obviously, in a country like New Zealand, which needs those precautions, that is part and parcel. You know exactly what you're going in for. But at the same time, it does take a massive, massive toll on these players. It's not sound too cliche. Sorry, that's England. Give me the phone call to go to the West Indies. But in terms of not sounding too cliche, we know that the game of cricket is incredibly psychologically driven. It is a mind game out there. It is a battle. That's why we call it a test. It's not just a test of physicality or technique. It's also up here. It's also the mind. It's the psychology of the game. If that is knocked off kilter as a result of being in a hotel for day after day after day, there's only so much you can do to actually, keep your brain focused, to keep that concentration, to keep that discipline. It is very, very tough. So I'm not just saying this for the Proteas. I'm saying this for teams all around the world right now. When we are seeing these tour results, that might actually be playing a factor. That's why we're not seeing teams, like we used to, going abroad and winning these tours, maybe not quite comfortably, but, even just stealing a series here and there, because it's made this task which was already difficult, even more difficult for these sides. So I think that does need to be taken into account, absolutely. And there are things aside from that. Of course, we can always iron out the creases on the field. You know, the technique does need to improve, the footwork needs to improve, the fielding, that's something incredibly basic, that can always improve. But I think we as fans just sometimes need to take a step back, listen to these players, and actually, you know, understand that they've been through quite a lot in these last 2 years, and it is incredibly challenging for them to do this series in, series out. It just takes a toll. That's all I'll say.
Oh, I'm surprised Werner didn't put on his mic and talk. I thought he was going to.
I'm sitting here. Yeah, I agree with your points. I'm sitting here thinking about something else. With these new guys coming in, right? It has an impact on the slip cordon and the gully, and let's just say the catching positions, right? So suddenly you don't have, let's say, Vian Mulder in there anymore. You don't have Keegan Peterson in there. These are like your bankers in the slips. Vian Mulder as bucket hands. He was catching almost anything coming towards him. Now you have Hamza in there. Maybe he does do that at provincial level, but maybe he does it at second slip and not at gully or fourth slip or wherever he was standing when he dropped that catch. Marco Janssen before the India series, how much was he actually fielding at gully for his provincial team? And these kind of things, it doesn't just come naturally. It takes practice over time to become good in that positions. And I'm thinking with this constant changes in the lineup, it's not easy because now you've got guys in there who's not used to it. So the chances of them dropping a catch there is bigger than it would be if you had your settled players in there. And it might the same thing might happen if we end up dropping Ras Acham Markram in the second test now, because he's one of those guys that has now been settled in that second slip position, and he's been catching it fairly well there. So if we drop him now, who's going to shift to second slip and stuff like that, all these things have a factor.
Yeah, you see, it's not related, I think, the domestic catching and the international catching. I think the reasons for domestic catching being so poor in the CSA T20 Challenge and the reason for it being so poor in the international setup currently, in this last match at least, I think that can be, you can talk about that being maybe related to the jet lag and the reprogramming, because if they're struggling to switch their mindsets and having lack of sleep is a result of that, because Ashwell spoke a lot about sleepless nights, etc., and doing those type of things. And if that was their process and their preparation before a test match as big as this, when you have a team that is fresh, ready, and at their peak, currently one of the, test champions, of course, and New Zealand's not a bad team at all, and they're one of the best, or even the best, that some may say. So they are clearly the best if they won the Test Championship. So anyway, playing against a New Zealand team like that, you need to be on your A game as well. So if South Africa were struggling, sleepless nights, jet lag, quarantine, and all of those things were affecting them, I can understand if there was some mishaps in the field. That I could understand. It's unforgivable that costed us the game, but you can understand that there's certain that could have been a result of being jet lagged and all of those things. Your reaction time is not going to be necessarily as good. So I could understand that maybe as well. Same for the batters and for the bowlers, if they're feeling lethargic, etc. It affects everything that you do. But you expected, and we expected, at least those basics to be there. And the basics weren't. If we saw South Africa play basic cricket and put up a bit of a fight, lose the match, but put up a fight, I think we wouldn't be so disappointed as a fan base. But then again, we're not in the situation as human beings and looking at the situation and saying, imagine if we were in that situation, how would we feel? I don't know how we would perform. It's difficult to judge, actually, as a neutral.
I have a very, very bad example, but a couple of weekends ago, I was asked to play a LMS game, and I haven't played cricket in 9 years, right? So I went out to bite last, and I only faced like 6 deliveries, but I only managed to hit 2. And it was strange to me because I used to be able to bat very well. I didn't really have a problem, and the bowlers weren't even that fast or that quick. So, but just the fact that you had absolutely no practice going into it, I didn't hit a hard cricket ball in 9 years. It's not the same, obviously, but just thinking about it, that some practice match, a practice match, or some more practice going into a match, it does make a difference. Now, obviously, it's not the same like me not playing for 9 years, but it does make a difference if you just have a bit of a feel for it, a bit of, even if it's just a real middle practice. If your squad is bigger, make an 8 versus 8 team and get something going. But going into it fairly cold, it makes a huge difference.
It most certainly does. And you got to remember as well with these New Zealanders, we haven't really given a lot of praise, to be honest, to the
They're
Black
excellent,
Caps,
though.
but
I love the way they play cricket.
they're outstanding.
I love
You know,
their attitude, the nature that they play it in, the everything. They flipping really a team that you can really marvel and appreciate, really, in all formats. Sorry
That's
to cut you off.
that's a really nice way of articulating it, Khalid. To be honest, again, they are just, you know, what we like about the game. To be honest, they're an incredibly likable team, incredibly destructive team as well, as we can see, and just the depth of New Zealand cricket right now. We mentioned those 3 massive names not playing, the likes of Bolt, Williamson, Taylor, obviously retired as well. There was all that talk with Watling as well when he retired. Who would fill the void? Tom Blundell's done it absolutely fantastically. Absolutely chuffed for him. I'm actually sat here in my Wellington Firebird shirt, so as a Wellington fan, very, very happy to see him. Gutted he couldn't get a century, but I thought he applied himself magnificently. And then Matt Henry as well.
How do you pronounce Is it Blundell or Blundell? Because I hear some people saying Blundell and some saying Blundell.
It depends. I mean, with my English accent, it's Blundell, but I suppose if you're Kiwi, it's Blandel.
All right.
Again, it's probably just regional dialect, to be honest.
Just something I was wondering about.
I'd have to ask him myself, Tom. If you're watching / listening, get on our podcast.
Can you do me a favor? It's a little bit of homework, but can you do me a favor?
Go on.
So could you write a top 10 list of teams that you are a massive fan of? I'm just interested to see
in all cricket or international,
all cricket.
Ooh, okay, yeah, I can do that.
I just want to see how many geez, that's a lot of teams that you a fan of. I would be interested to see.
This is the thing, people. Again, this is completely off topic, but needs to be said. Obviously, I think you all know by now, and I'll see the eyes rolling in a second. But I'm a massive Warwickshire fan. We have a really tight connection with the Wellington Firebirds. Adam Hose played for them. Chris Wokes played for them. One of our greatest ever overseas players, Jitan Patel, was from the Wellington Firebirds. So that's how my connection with them came about. But again, it's just a testament to the sheer strength in depth of New Zealand cricket right now. And they were superb. They really were superb in this particular test match. It was the third most, the third highest loss by South Africa in their test history? Was it third or second?
Second highest.
Second
After
highest.
that
Against Australia.
thrashing in 2002.
What's that? Innings and 360 runs or
something like that. But at least then that was a world-beating team. New Zealand are also world champions, but I don't think they're quite at the level that Australia were at that stage.
Well, I don't think many teams are, to be honest. That'd be good, wouldn't it? One day on a podcast saying who would win, them or the West Indies in the 1980s.
But it was one of those where Hayden and Langer would open, and then you'd have Ricky Ponting and Andrew Simonson, all those guys. And then, here comes Adam Gilchrist as number 7 and smashes a double century.
Yeah, no, it's a ridiculous team.
Yeah, it's not very fair, that, to be honest. But, sorry, that was massively off topic. I just had to get that in for Tom Blundell. I'm saying it now, Blundell, whatever you want to say. Right, yeah. He's a great player.
New Zealand deserve the credit. New Zealand needs the credit. And New Zealand were excellent. They did what they had to do. I think the reason why we're talking about South Africa all the time is because the contest was ruined by what South Africa brought to the table, unfortunately. We could have been seeing an excellent test match, something worthy to get up for in the morning, so from a South African fan point of view, and watch and enjoy. But instead, we didn't get that. We got a completely different match. And I can tell the reasons too. Like, you can't compare this at all to what the Proteas are going through. But just me trying to switch my times to cover the game, I can feel it in my everyday schedule as well, knowing, because I'm staying up trying to watch every single minute of the game. Starts at midnight, ends at 8:30. You have to basically switch your whole eating plan, your whole thinking plan, your whole sleeping pattern is messed up. I've slept. That's why probably I'm the way I am at the moment, guys, and I apologize if you've seen it seep through my personality. But ultimately, when it comes to the way I've been and behaving, I've probably slept a total of 6 hours over this last 3-4 days, like in total. I'm talking about like 2 hours a day. So it's been difficult for me to adjust to it. So imagine if they're flying as well, then quarantining and adjusting your times, and they have to play test cricket, the hardest form of the game. You can sympathize with the Proteas, but we still expected a better performance, unfortunately.
Well, 100%, but that's our role as fans, isn't it? We expect from this team. I mean, we've just seen them beat India, for goodness sake. So we know that they are a good side. This isn't a side which are minnows and languishing towards the bottom of the World Test Championship. We know what South Africa are capable of. It's just in this particular test match, yes, there are external factors. We mentioned the bicycle bubbles, the fatigue from that, jet lag, whatever you want to call it, right? That is a factor. Another factor is, of course, the dominance of New Zealand, in particular in Christchurch. Let's not forget they absolutely annihilated Bangladesh there as well in the last series. I know they lost in Mount Maunganui, but they got it back at the Hagley Oval. Heading into this next test match, though, talking of that Bangladesh series, I want to see a new mentality with this South African side. Because at the Bay Oval, there was this one quote, I'll never forget it, from Mamadou Hassan Joy. He had just come into the Bangladesh side, first ever test series. And he said after that game, after that historic victory for Bangladesh, he said, I wasn't playing the bowler, I was just playing the ball. And that is such an important mentality to have against New Zealand because we know they're top quality. You've got the likes of Wagner, you've got the likes of Southey, Colin de Grandhomme as well, in home conditions, very, very potent. He's a great change bowler.
South Africa has to do that against everyone, Adam.
Yeah,
Joe Root is taking 5 first against South Africa, then.
Yeah, but Joe Root's class, isn't he? Let's be honest. His bowling has improved under Jitan Patel's spin bowling guidance, but that is something you need to do in New Zealand. And I know it's very cliche, but the best form of defence is attack. The only issue in New Zealand is you have to have such a clear-cut vision of that attack because you don't want that turning into flashes outside off because you're going to get nicked off. They're really, really tough batting additions. So it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be difficult. But again, we talk about application, we talk about footwork, and we talk about temperament. Those are the things that South Africa need to implement in order to change this series around heading in to that second test.
I'm seeing some comments in the comment section like South Africa are playing T20 players. They must play specialist long ball format players.
What are your thoughts on that, though? Just in general in cricket, because this is something which not that. I meant the wider discussion because this is something which, obviously, after the Ashes, has come into the English cricketing discussion. Should we be having specialist players? Because if we are seeing these bicycle bubbles now, is it sustainable for players to play all formats anymore?
I don't think bicycle bubbles are going to be around forever. I'm pretty sure that things are going to change. I'm confident.
Even without those, okay. Let's. I was talking short term, but if we think long term as well, thinking of technique, because that's something which, again, has dominated the public cricketing conversation. Do you think nowadays, because there's so much cricket going on, domestic, franchise, international cricket, we're getting more and more games every single year? Do you think that we should have specialist test ball players, specialist ODI players, and T20 players?
I think that will naturally happen.
What about coaches as well?
I don't think so. Personally,
interesting.
I look at it and I'm like, naturally that will happen. Like South Africa naturally have that. Like David Miller doesn't play Test cricket. Reza Hendricks doesn't play Test cricket. He had a chance to, but doesn't anymore. There are a couple of players. Tabrei Shams, he doesn't play Test cricket anymore. There are certain players that don't. So naturally that will happen. But I think actually what's going to happen, I think there's going to be a more of a demand in the future as we go into the new era of cricket for players that can play all formats. I think that's going to be the player that you want, because I think that a lot of players have been developing and changing their game plans, taking some things that they've learned from Test cricket and bringing it to the T20 game, and vice versa. So there has been a crossover amongst white ball and red ball cricket from players. And from the interviews that I've had recently, I asked players a lot about that, because for me, it's a fascination for them. For me personally, looking at this happening, watching players change formats within a couple of weeks, almost like in a week, a couple of days sometimes. Like the international cricketers now, the CSA T20 Challenge cricketers now, sorry, the South African cricketers now, they were just playing 4-day cricket. They're going straight into a T20 tournament that is in difficult conditions at a high intensity. It's a complete change. Like the fact that they're just doing it like that, it's almost like there's nothing taken into account with regards to these players' mentality, physicality, and their well-being. The switch. There needs to be a smarter and a plan. Ultimately there needs to be a structure and plan put in place to think about all of these situations. Not just, I feel like South Africa and Cricket South Africa at the moment and are so desperate to get tours on the way, because it's a form of income and money, that they're not worried necessarily about when the timing is right, rather than let's just try to fit in as much as possible in the fixtures, in the schedule of the calendar that we can already. And I think that's happening. I don't think Cricket South Africa are completely in control of the fixtures that they play. I'm sure that they would have wanted maybe more games against New Zealand, for example, instead of a 2-match series. I mean, that would have probably came directly from New Zealand side. So, yeah, I think that as the game develops, I think there's going to be an increase of players that can play multi-formats. And I think there's going to be more players that are going to be interested in wanting to play multi-formats. But as a result of that, there's going to be a lot of players that are going to start specializing because they think that they maybe have a chance in A, B, or C. So it's going to be, it's a difficult one to answer, because it's a reactionary effect that it will have. An opposite effect will happen, because there will be more players that are going to emerge as all format players. Like I would have looked at someone like Reina van Tonder and seen him as a white ball cricketer, as a red ball cricketer. I could have easily pigeonholed him as a red ball cricketer. Or Zubair Hamza, I could have easily pigeonholed him as a red ball cricketer until he came onto the scene, until he did what he did in the One Day Cup and the T20 Challenge. People were classifying him as a red ball cricketer. Dean Alga is a red ball cricketer. He doesn't have the same output in white ball cricket as he has in red ball cricket. So I feel that more and more as we go along, if you speak to Reina van Tonder now, he'll probably tell you that he wants to be an all-format cricketer. If you speak to the likes, I spoke to Stubbs, I spoke to Donovan Ferreira, he told us the same thing. They all speaking the same language, saying they want to play all formats. I mean, first-class cricket is still the pinnacle of cricket. Test cricket is still the pinnacle of cricket. And everybody's dream would be want to play that format. Look at the women, how happy they are that they're playing a test match. They were delighted about it. I mean, Wolfart's reaction as well. She was completely ecstatic about the fact that they're going to be playing a test match. Even Shabnam Ismail in a recent interview that's going to come out, we're busy with the issue, you'll see it. The article come out soon from a buy, but there's even about that. So like everybody's dream will probably play a test match. I think there's going to be a resurgence of the new generation of cricketers coming through the system. I really honestly do. But I think by making more all format cricketers, there's going to be more spaces opened up for specific format cricketers as a result. Because obviously, if an all format cricketer plays, it's taking the spot of a real format or a single formatted player. Yeah, you understand what I mean?
I do. It was a tough question, to be honest. So well done, Khalid. That was a pretty good response, to be honest, to that question. But the other one, which I do have to ask because it's been dominating here in the UK, is about coaching. We've mentioned there about players. Do you see South Africa at some point splitting the coaching roles? Because it's something now that England haven't got a head coach. Silverwood's been sacked. potentially we're weighing up our options. Gary Kirsten could be a test coach, and then we bring in a specialist ODI and T20 coach. And we are seeing this in county cricket. We've got it at the moment at Sussex with Ian Salisbury and James Kirtley swapping between those roles. Could you ever see that happening in South African cricket? Either of you two or anyone in the chat, do you reckon you could have a split coaching role for the Proteas?
Vern conveniently looked away from the camera when I was pointing at him. Conveniently. Vern, you can answer that one first.
He wants to talk about Tristan Stubbs and John Smuts, none for 16 for economy rate.
You know, Khalid, I think Aaron's biggest dream is for John Smuts to go play at the Bears. I think he would die the day John Smuts signs with Warwickshire. Anyway,
John, give me a call.
Twitter would be trending. Have you seen Aaron? Have you seen Aaron? Have you seen Aaron?
They'd have to crowbar me out of the seats of Edgbaston if John was playing there, but apologies, Werner. Again, off topic, we always talk about John when I'm here. Every time.
I wonder who brings it up every time.
I know, it's a mystery.
I don't know. I can't see us going with more than one coach in South Africa.
You can't even afford to pay for a coach in each what category?
Yeah, and we're barely managing it with one coach at this stage. In any case, there's always some kind of issue, and fans have issues. Imagine like 3 separate coaches, or even 2 separate coaches, and then those 2 coaches don't get along, so their philosophies are not the same. So, and then you have players who play across formats, and then the coach of the limited overs format is telling this player to do this and change his technique in a certain way, or his approach in a certain way, and then he gets to the test, and then the test coach says no, you got to play it like this. Which, I mean, you anyway have to adapt between the 2 formats, but I don't think 2 separate coaches is going to help our situation. Maybe it'll help England, because obviously the limited over side is very successful, and the test side is basically where our side is right now in the test format, struggling as much with the bat. So maybe that will help for England. Maybe bringing Gary Kirsten in for the test format will be great for England, but I don't know if a similar thing will work for South Africa.
See, I was interested to hear that, and actually, just for the essence of fairness, I suppose, in terms of the experiment at Sussex. Sussex reached finals day in the T20, so they reached the semi-finals. They finished 18th out of 18 in the first class. So the first season was very much a mixed bag, but then again, it's in its first year. So we'll have to wait and see. I think Sussex will be quite a good place to look at in terms of that innovation, potentially England as well, heading into the future. And then the final thing that I just...
I mean,
just
to add to that, like, when you're changing that, it's not just like normally people would say when a major thing changes, a lot of things fall of a snowball effect because of the snowball effect. So, for example, a major company loses its kingpin or the man at the top, a lot of things will fall underneath and be sacrificed as accordingly, right? It's like when you look at a guy like Steve Jobs leaving Apple, there were some things happened when he passed away and things changed at the company, Anybody at Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, when he left Arsenal, how many things changed it took you some time, to get things right again. United with Fergie, how things are still 10 years on, still we shit. So it's like
left Sussex.
Yeah. So like when major changes happen, if you're changing things that are going to change more than one thing at a structure, you're going to see an impact. It's going to take time for things to level out again. And that's probably what's happening over there. It's because when you're changing one thing, like for example, making the first team or first class coach different to the 50 over coach, it's obviously going to be you're changing 2 or 3 things at once. Like it's not just one thing that changes, everything underneath it changes. The whole structure changes. The pipeline changes of what type of players you're going to be producing. Now you look at your players differently. All of a sudden you're looking at a player, oh wait, maybe can he, he's good at that, but maybe can he be that only? And now your own mindset is going to change on everything. So it changes a lot of things at once, which I think is crazy. But But yeah, I just don't think South Africa have the resources for that. We can barely get enough coaches at domestic level to coach, like high quality coaches to coach at the domestic level. I mean, if Boucher leaves tomorrow, I don't think anybody will agree that this next person should be the coach. I don't think anybody will be in agreement with that. So I don't think our setup is big enough, and for that, we're gonna have to recruit 100%. And whether there's the money to be able to even have that happening, I don't know.
I think it's criminal that Jeffrey Tayona isn't even a head coach at this moment. I would have had him
100%.
as South Africa's coach by now, and he's like the assistant coach at the Titans. I mean, great for the Titans and great for somebody like Devon Brevis coming through. But the fact that he's not even a head coach, I find that astounding, really. So, Aaron,
Do you know
do you
what I
want to talk
said?
about Tristan Stubbs?
Well,
Because you
before
bring him
we,
up the whole time.
because I've been very impressed. I think he's the leading run scorer in the T20 Challenge so far. But you mentioned there about Jeffrey Toyana. I mentioned this the other day actually to Mpo. I said, wouldn't it be amazing if he actually coached as a head coach one of the Division 2 sides, give him 3 seasons and see how far he can take them? I'd absolutely love to see that. Like go with Mpumalanga or Limpopo,
He
try and
should
take
get a
them.
Division 1 coach for.
Well, he should do, but look, I'm looking at this from
You
like
could
a
take Free
cricket
State's
captain.
job.
Hmm?
You could take Free State's job.
Potentially, but I'm just saying it. Maybe I'm romanticising it a bit. But imagine taking a team from Division 2 within 3 seasons. If anyone could do it, Jeffrey Toyana could. So we'll have to wait and see. But back on track, I suppose. Tristan Stubbs. Yeah, just wanted to mention him, and of course DeVault, because we had that conversation the other week, didn't we? After the IPL auction, went for a lot of money. Seems to have had absolutely zero effect on him so far. To be fair, Brevis has been absolutely fantastic, and Tristan Stubbs. You know, the more I watch this guy, the more I'm kind of hopping on the hype train. I've got to be honest. He's been incredibly impressive. And one final one as well, Khalid, you'll like this. Jonathan Bird. He started to get some consistency in this last week. I think he's up there as well, scored 150 odd runs in this year's tournament already. So
Jonathan Bird, there was never a question in my eyes on Jonathan Bird ever. Jonathan Bird was just about sticking it out and being brave and sticking it out and being patient, because something happened at Western Province which a lot of people wouldn't have thought would have happened, losing Peter Malan and Janaman Malan in the same season. So that changed everything, because that's your top order batters gone, the rock of your team gone. So there was a opportunity for a guy like John Bird to get a chance to play, and that's all he needed. He always had the talent, always had the power to be able to you see, Jono's not a scared player. And I think it's maybe partly because he was a first team rugby captain, I think, as well. First team rugby player, tall, big lad, hits the ball really hard. So he can chill with the big boys, as you know. So when it comes to this type of thing, with the Jono Bird, I was never worried about Jono. I just felt that he needed some game time. So I'm really pleased with what I've seen from Jono Bird. Tristan Stubbs, I always knew that he had that in his locker. I just wanted to see him do it at the domestic level and get opportunity at the domestic level, which the Robbie P clearly saw, because I know the Robbie P was at the Kai Majola week when Tristan Stubbs was doing these things. That's when I met Tristan for the first time and I saw it in action. And I saw by the pure size of the guy as well. He's quite a tall guy. I knew this boy, if he just keeps his head straight and he gets the opportunities to play his natural game, he's going to really take SA cricket by storm. And he's done so. And he's also shining in a team that's also struggling. So it is one of those type of things. Things are working out perfectly for him. Donovan Ferreira, for me personally, I want to mention, because his story intrigues me, and it should. Not knowing whether he's going to focus on cricket alone, having to do a 9-to-5 job. I don't know if it's 9 to 5, his actual working hours, but it's just a general indication of, or general term used when you're saying someone has a normal job. So his normal job that he has, he actually had to put leave in. Do you know that, Aaron? And if you say no, you don't know that, then I'm really upset with you that you didn't watch my interview with Donovan Ferreira.
Can I just say, it is actually on the watch list, and I was actually going to bring that up, so you've ruined that a little bit for me, to be honest. But Why did he have to take leave? What was his job
No,
originally?
because he has a normal job. So obviously, if you're going to
What was
play in
it?
a tournament for a whole month, then I didn't actually. What did he say he does? I can't remember actually what he said he does.
Did you watch the video?
He was in the video. I got him on.
Yeah,
I don't watch my videos afterwards. I don't watch
he
it back.
studied
Whatever happens.
business management, but I can't remember what he said. What his actual job
job,
was. It
okay,
was something
basically, yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he said he felt he needed to ask for leave, and he asked his coach, who then got Jock Fall to call his boss to ask him, is it fine if he comes to the tournament? So yeah, it's an interesting story. It's a shame we don't get to see more of him in this tournament, just because the top order of the Titans are doing the job at this stage. So we haven't seen him bat in the last 3 matches after he started so well. But yeah, so a couple of interesting things in that video. I asked him about his helmet and why it looks different than the rest. So you should go watch.
I am going to watch it, and I'm glad actually. No more spoilers, please, lads. Because
And
I've
please
got that
share,
on.
with friends and family.
I do that all the time. And I'll retweet the tweets. Hang on. I'm one of the biggest supporters of CFM, and since
I have
2019,
to say.
exactly. Absolutely
But-
love
to
this
say.
platform.
Before we sign off, just
But he's not a patron.
I appear instead. I'm right here. Time is money, Khalid.
Werner does both.
Well, Werner's Werner. Werner's a
Who's
superstar.
bigger? Oh, no, I'm joking. Who's a bigger fanatic? Let's see. No, I'm
Probably,
joking.
probably Werner.
But interesting
That
stuff
was-
I read today that Robin Peterson actually picked him based on what he saw in the nets. He didn't see him play a single match before he picked Tristan Stubbs. He took a punt on him. He saw how good he was batting in the nets, so he picked him in the CSA T20 Challenge last year in February, March.
Yes,
Uh,
that's true. Because Robbie P was the year before.
So yeah,
I think Victor Pasang was the convener of selectors, I think.
Can I ask a question about Tristan? I may have got him confused. Does he have a Dutch passport?
yes.
Yes.
The reason I ask that, and before anyone says, "Oh, you're going to recruit him for England," what I'm saying is potentially later down the line, he could actually qualify as a local player here in the UK.
Yeah.
In terms
Yeah,
of playing county cricket, I'm not on about in terms of playing for England. He'd still play for South Africa, but that could be an avenue.
Don't put it into the
to get to that
universe.
stage.
Why would you put it into the universe? Why do you put things like that into the universe?
Because that'd be a really good learning opportunity for him. Look at Keegan. Keegan's doing it this summer for Durham.
That's going to be good for Keegan ahead of the England Test series. But yeah, Tristan maybe ends up playing the Blast or something in England. I don't know what it's called these days. There was the
Tristan,
NatWest Blast
come
and
to
there was the
Warwickshire.
Vitality Blast and
It's
whatever.
always it's not always been the Blast. Hang on.
It's always been the Blast, but it's been a different sponsor every time.
Actually,
But,
it used to be the T20 Cup back in 2003. But it used to be the T20 Cup, then the NatWest T20
you're shaking
Blast.
your head to me, but you're the one who just said it was always the T20 Blast, so you should be shaking it to yourself.
No,
Fight.
right, and I've confused myself there, but genuinely, I would like to see that in the future for Tristan. I think that'd be quite a good opportunity. Keegan, of course, taking that for Durham. And who else is... as well, Boran. Boran's playing for Leicestershire as well, for those who don't know. Boran Hendricks has been signed by the Foxes, so...
He's actually had one of his better tournaments that I've seen from Hendricks in a while. He's been a lot better in this T20 format, so hopefully he carries that over for his county. So, and I think Markram could probably do with another stint at Hampshire at this stage to sort out his technique. It would probably
Warwickshire.
not be a bad...
Or Warwickshire. I'm
Or
just
go
saying.
back to the team he was at before.
Or Warwickshire. Same
But
with
just
Tristan.
quickly, what I wanted to say on Stubbs before we went off on another thing, because you brought up his Dutch passport. He talks a lot about the conditioning he did in the lockdown time and how much more confident he is now in hitting the ball big, just because of all that gym work he did in the off season in that COVID period. And I think a lot of players can take quite a lot from that, because just being confident and you can hit it over the boundary makes such a big difference. So I think a lot of players could go back and work on their fitness and just to enhance their game.
Yeah, I never even saw the time. We've been speaking for an hour and 14 minutes already. So this is exactly what the podcast show is about. But let me get some fan comments because we haven't even engaged with the live chat at all. Time just went by. Because the last time I checked, it was 24 minutes, and now it's 1 hour 15. So
I'm
let's
just seeing a load of comments saying don't take Stubbs from us. That's not what I was suggesting. I was just suggesting he plays county cricket. Leicester Paul's done the exact same thing. He has a Hungarian passport.
Baby
he
KP.
qualifies. No, we're not getting into that conversation again.
Seriously, that's the conversation that's going around, baby KP.
All I know is
You're kidding.
Stubbs needs to be picked in that squad versus India in June. That 5 test or whatever that T20 series, we need to get Stubbs in there.
Would you fast track him? Would you get Bravis in there as well?
No. Bravis is still a ways off, and we'll see. He'll probably learn bucket loads from the IPL from being at Mumbai. He's not quite there yet in the T20 format. He'll get there. He's good enough. But I'll probably give him a season or two domestically and see how much he develops at the IPL. But for now, Stubbs is good enough to bat at 6, in my opinion, after Miller.
Yeah. So we got a comment over here from Siraj Campbell saying Big Gibbs or Klusner, head coach of the Proteas. It's going to be a crazy combination, that two of them. I mean, Klusner's been involved with the Proteas before. It's not like he hasn't. When I did the interview with him, he was still considering being involved with the Proteas, etc. So it's not like he's completely out of the question. But Klusner, you'll be going back to someone that you've already tried before. Justin Langer is coach for the Proteas. I'll take that. I'll take that.
I was just about to allude to that comment actually from PSV. It would be interesting, wouldn't it? JL as coach of the Proteas.
I was looking. I thought that an Australian would. I think an Australian would fit nicely with South Africa, like the fighting spirit, the mentality, maybe putting a structure in place. It's mosquitoes. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying that on a live stream. Oh, flip! The animal people are gonna come after me. Right, speak. Do not kill mosquitoes, guys. Let them fly outside the window. No mosquitoes were harmed in the making of this video. I'm just talking myself into a corner. Let's go to some more. But I would like to see an Australian type of coach.
These are not the views of Cricket Fanatics Magazine.
These are not. Yes, very, very true. No mosquitoes were in this video.
Right, you've sneakily put that comment on there about taking both Hendrickses. I did see you do that, Khalid.
Me?
That just came up on the screen.
Did it? Flip, I wanted to do that. Yes, take both Hendrickses, as someone said in the comment section.
I'm just trying to think if Reza would fit any of the counties. Because the problem is, I probably would have gone for someone.
There's 3 Hendrickses, by the way. There's Tom Hendricks, there's Reza Hendricks, and there's Björn Hendricks. So I don't know. They're only mentioning 2 of them.
I reckon
assuming it's the Proteas ones.
Yeah, Reza would be more of a candidate, I think, for county cricket as of this moment. Maybe Durham, because they desperately need some T20 players. That's all I'd say.
Who they have Biddingham and Peterson now, right? Is that at Durham?
Yeah, Peterson's only championship though. He's there for 7 games.
That makes sense.
That's gonna be such a good top order for them. Alex Lees as well. Scott Borthwick.
I'd watch that game just to watch those 2 bat together.
Werner, you need to come to the UK. Watch county cricket. It's amazing. Genuinely, for all of the bad rep it's got after the Ashes, right? And the Ashes were a painful watch. I watched every single minute of that and had to do radio work for it. It was horrible. I don't want to relive that. But honestly, if you watch county cricket and you support one of the counties, it's incredible. It's some of the best domestic cricket on the planet. So anyone out there in the comments, if you want to come to the UK, watch county cricket. That's all I'll say. It's definitely worth it. And of course, a test match at Edgbaston. Also a must.
No. England's a sore topic for me. Don't keep bringing it up.
Why is it a sore topic?
Yeah, I don't bring you don't know the story. But it's okay. It's a sore topic for me, because when the whole World Cup fell apart, it was a very heartbreaking period in my life, to be fair.
I was there for the Australia game at Old Trafford.
Oh, wow.
along with a
Unbelievable.
lot of
And
England
I
fans.
planned my
supporting
whole
South Africa.
trip was planned towards that last trip, that last week, in Manchester. Like I had tour set up, I had everything set up for that week, last week. That was my whole.
Were you at that game?
What? I
Were
never
you at-
got to go. You do not know the story. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that's for
There's
another
a
podcast.
massive. That's another podcast on its own. It's a massive heartbreaking story that happened over there with the
You're
29th Walk.
joking.
I would have met you if it happened. I had everything was set up. Everything was like I literally got to the front desk to give my ticket in, to get on the plane to go to England, and I was turned around.
And that, my friends,
was-
is how Cricket Fanatics Magazine started.
And that's how Fractal started. Yes, exactly.
Can
That
I
is
just-
exactly what happened.
I just need to answer a question here from Dex. Is Grant Stewart Italian? Yes, he has an Italian passport. He plays for Italy, which is very interesting. As does a certain Gareth Berg, who some South African fans might know. Plays for Northants now. He used to play for Hampshire, but Italy
So many South Africans in England. I don't even know if I can call them South African either.
Well, that's up to your personal preference. But Grant Stewart is an Italian, and he's actually been doing quite well for them. Another one as well.
He's so proud of it, though. Can you see it? He's like so proud. Oh, this guy's an Italian, and this guy's French. Oh, this guy's South African. Oh, they all play. Let's all play for England. Let's just be happy.
That's the beauty of county cricket. We have so many nationalities. We get to learn so much about all the.
Can't grow your own talent. That's why.
Can't get our own talent. Remember, who are the world champions? Can't grow our own talent.
The guy that won it for you is not even English.
I have the Playfair Cricket Annual right here. I can tell you all the homegrown talent in the world right there. But with regards to what's the original point we were getting at? You've completely threw me off now. Oh, Italy. Yeah, someone who you might remember from England a while back in the T20 setup. Jade Dernbach plays for Italy. Wasn't he born in South Africa as well? I think he was.
Ask Werner. Werner's the encyclopedia.
Yeah, I think he was. And then AB hit him all around the ground in that T20 World Cup, and then he didn't play for England again. Those back of the hand slurrables started going wrong, so then he stopped playing for England.
AB took me to retirement.
Yeah, but remember, which country has more T20 World Cups?
Blah, 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 blah. T20, who cares about T20 cricket anyway?
Me, I do, very much so.
Guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Just remember, please, guys, the podcast show is all about us chatting on screen. So you guys tune in, and thank you a lot for giving us so much support. We don't hardly ever get to the comment section. So if you do want us to see your comments and you want to get involved in the conversation, that's what the super chats are for, please. So get involved in the super chats, because it's difficult to hold a conversation and have a conversational type of video if we're going to be looking at the comment section the entire time. It's going to distract us too much, guys, and it's going to push us off for points that we want to get through. So just please try to respect that and understand that on the podcast show on a Sunday evening, it's a conversational type of video of us guys just having a chat about cricket, and sometimes obviously women as well. We must get more females on the podcast as well again. But through and through, that's what the show is about, this particular Sunday show. So please just give us that one bit of freedom, because the rest of the week, we have daily shows every single day, Monday to Friday. So you guys can ask your questions there as well. Friday is dedicated to you guys for questions. So keep your questions for those shows. If you really want to ask or say something pressing, that's what the super chat's for. There's a $sign in the live chat. You can just click on there and do so. But guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell for all YouTube videos. That share thing that Aaron likes to do, apparently. That's what you guys need to do with everybody. Become a Patron like Werner. Support Cricket Fanatics Magazine.
Watch the shows, unlike Aaron.
Oh, God. I'm not. I'm boycotting CFM. This is my last show for a while, guys. My apologies.
Become a subscriber of the magazine. Are you a subscriber of the magazine?
Of course I am. Contribute to it. What do you mean?
He's a contributor. He's been an excellent contributor over the last couple of years.
So read the magazine, guys, because there probably won't be a lot of contributions for a while from the Cricket Connoisseur.
Khalid, you're going to have to give him an exclusive with John to help him turn his mind.
Now that would break the internet.
Do you want one?
Khalid, I've never wanted anything more in my life.
I'm going to organize it for you. I'm going to try my best to organize it for you.
My hero.
Okay. Guys, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. Take care, everybody. Remember, the test cricket happening very soon. We'll do our previews probably Wednesday or Thursday, Werner? Thursday, probably. For the game that's happening Friday. Or we'll put it out on Friday like we did the last time. I don't know what you guys like more. So let me know in
It's
the
starting Thursday at midnight, Friday morning, so it's going to have to be Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, yeah. Oh, yeah, Friday morning in New Zealand. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, cool. So then we will either put it on Wednesday or Thursday. Let us know in the comment section what you guys would like. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Werner. This mosquito is bugging me. And we'll see you guys again very soon. Take care.